So an enterprise data management framework will give will guide us into actually building a data lake with some strong data management principles. So before you build a data lake, make sure you get the EDM, enterprise data management architecture, right. So the first thing in an EDM is about policies. What are the principles and guidelines and governance architecture we have in place? And next talks about process in terms of how are we taking all those principles and then coupling with some processes. So this processes has to be very tailored to the new technology. And it also talks about how do we actually streamline the old processes. The third um, pillar of EDM is about audit in terms of understanding who actually access the data, what are the assessment framework that we have in place, and also we need to understand how much value are people deriving from the data itself. So that's an audit framework. And the fourth pillar is all about controls. Controls in terms of what are the access controls that I have in place? What are the security measure I have in place? What are the privacy legislation that I have to obey? And then how does it actually translate into all those access controls? So the controls piece talks about all those stuff. And finally, the platform. How does the platform actually takes all this policy, process, audit, and controls framework and then gets implemented in a technology? Let me go into the policy framework. So in policy, we have to have some strong data management principles to implement all the policies. So for example, the data that you bring into the data lake must have an identified business purposes. If your data doesn't have a business purpose, then there's absolutely no incentive for you to bring the data into the data lake. And the data stewards should inform the users about data quality and also about the business context. And one of the strong principles is the value of the data is maximized when shared. So you have to enable all your business users to actually share the data. And more importantly, how is your EDM is enabling to democratize all the data. So irrespective of whether the user have access to any data, any business data, they should be able to know what data that the business collects holistically. So that's very, very important. And the next thing is the data assets metadata should be visible to all the users. And the other policy principles is it should adhere to all the privacy legislation and regulations in your organization. Okay. So what about process? So the we have to understand what kind of process you have in place to make sure that people trust your data. So, so in terms of process, then you should have some kind of a data quality framework to actually make sure that there is some kind of a process that enables people to trust this data and also empower them to use that data. Then what about how does people are you going to are going to use this data? So you need to have some kind of a process where you have some kind of a workbench where people come and explore the data, try to use the data in different ways. And what are the process then you have in place to actually capture all the business context, because you don't want other business users to misinterpret your data. So the So there has to be some kind of a business context that is captured along with your data. And then how are you facilitating in terms of bringing that business context when people are doing some data analysis? So that's very important. And next process you should have in place is to how are you enabling users to actually find the data in your business? Okay, so these are some of the process that I just want to highlight. So I'll give you one of the quick example of how do we actually enabling processes. One of the process where we try to bring in the data. So the data from disparate sources, it could be a database, your CSV file, or it could be from IoT or your social media, gets, when it brought in, it goes to a landing zone. So the landing zone is where you have the unadulterated data. So the data is in a raw format, but only the very specialized people, only very specialized and authorized people are allowed to see this data in the landing zone. And then we move the data from landing zone to something called as a process zone, where what we tend to do is we try to curate the data. We tend to give the business context. We tend to do some transformation. We tend to do some data cleansing. Then it comes to a process zone. So when it comes to the process zone, this data is almost trusted. In fact, you really want to make sure that data in the process zone is 100% trusted. And then from the process zone, all your business processes, all your dashboards, and all your analytics worksprints are consuming data from this process zone. So by doing so, by doing this method, you pretty much segregated the raw data from a process data. So there is a raw data in the landing zone where your data scientist and data analyst wants to have access to, because they don't want to play with the process data because it might have undergone some transformation. So this is one of the key processes, um, um, one of the key process in the EDM. So the next process I really want to talk about is the data quality framework. So in the EDM, you need to have a data quality framework, and after the data quality framework, you need to have a data quality assessment framework where you not only talk about your traditional data quality metrics, but also talk about the data quality metrics that matters to the business. So if you talk about data quality metrics in terms of consistency, reliability, timeliness, those are the traditional metrics that never actually translate to the business metrics. So what the business really wants to know is how reliable is this data? And more importantly, how frequently this data is getting refreshed, and how much they can trust this data in making those decisions. So those are the metrics that you have to build as part of your data quality assessment framework. So I'm just going to give you a quick data quality process overview. So as you ingest the data using some of your data ingestion tool, in this case I'm using StreamSets, and you're bringing the data from different sources into your landing zone, which is stored in the MapRFS, you need to have some kind of a data quality metrics, which is could be written in your Python or any kind of scripting language, which actually computes all those data metrics as it gets ingested. And those data quality metrics are stored in the MapR platform. And then those data quality metrics are projected to the business as well. So, for example, if your marketing team is consuming data from your sales team, then all this data quality metrics will be visible to all the people across all your businesses. So, if your marketing team is consuming data from sales, and you find that the sales team, the data quality of the sales data is not improved over the period of time, then it's more of a gamification coming into picture where the marketing team will actually put pressure on the sales team to improve their data quality. Always remember one of the data management principle is that the data quality should be fixed at the source. So in this process, the marketing team will actually give the feedback to the sales team saying that, hey, I'm using your data for making all my decisions, but your data quality is not that great. Why can't you go and fix the data quality problem at your source, so that next iteration when you bring in the data into the data lake, then I get a better data quality metric, better data quality. By doing so, then I enhance the trust in the data, and also you're making the data more reliable. So this complete process have to be completely automated. So that's one of the key principles.